Good afternoon. This is Kevin Burrell. This is assignment uh, 5, cj340, organized crime. Today I'm going to talk about the case that I picked involved an alleged 14K triad member, uh, Paul Wow. The FBI and the Gaming Control Board in Las Vegas uh, thinks he's a high-ranking member of the 14K triad. Uh, so he was on trial for gambling and booking on, on the Las Vegas Strip uh, for taking bets during the World Cup that just passed. So he was a bookie. He was actually a bookie taking bets, so he was investigated. So the trial has started. So a judge just yesterday, Peggy Lean, decided to throw the case out because she feels that they didn't have sufficient evidence. Because law enforcement had posed as cable repairmen, TV repairmen. So they cut off the internet, and then they, the people in the suites in the Caesar. This happened in the Caesar's Palace. So people called, because the internet was down. So the repairmen would disguise law enforcement agents who arrived to, repair the TVs. So they were coming to fix the TVs and the routers, but they were actually law enforcement. They was able to get inside these exclusive suite villas inside the Caesar's Palace, where housing people who were making these bets and people of large influence to the triad community. So the Judge Lean, thought that it was an invasion of privacy. Uh, so she threw it out. I agree with it to a point, but I agree as at today with all of the privacy issues, the Patriot Act, people invasion of privacy is like citizens really don't have that much privacy nowadays. But this has been a practice for years in the law enforcement field. I guess it's no different than undercover agents posing as potential buyers of drugs or weapons, or even law enforcement posing as prostitutes to apprehend individuals. I'm kind of like on the fence, but I agree with the privacy thing. But I understand the practice that was done for this to happen. So I'm gonna still say I agree, but I'm still on the fence. One thing I found out was interesting, that found out that Mr. Guan is actually considered one of the biggest bookies in the world, through Hong Kong, Vegas, Europe, Australia, all over. And then the gentleman actually was on an episode of the World Poker Series Championship on ESPN. So I actually got one of the articles off of ESPN. It was pretty interesting that this guy's been on TV. He's a known poker player in the poker world. For someone with that much influence, and then even find out that during the trial, the U.S. government has seized impounded a $48 million jet, a V Gulfstream jet that he owned. $48 million, that's a lot of money. Another interesting thing was that the remaining balance of the money was paid by Phil Levy, who's also is a poker player champion on the World Series of Poker. He put up $2 million. So that goes to show Mr. Paul. Paul has a lot of friends in high places. And this was just an interesting case, a good read. If you get the opportunity, you want to take a read. You can just Google it, or you can go on ESPN. There's a lot of different articles on this. But it was really interesting to learn how, this guy really had a lot of influence, and it's really, and seen him on TV, and he's possibly involved in organized crime, allegedly by law enforcement. So, signing off. Again, this is Kevin Burrell. Good night.